Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is another end to a great week and the beginning of a new week. And I am playing Elton John's sad song here. It's kind of one of those songs, folks, where it's kind of just perfect for everything that's going on in the news. So we're going to go ahead and get Sir Elton John here shut off, so to speak. We got a lot of things in the news to talk about today, folks. I was going to start off, on a Monday here. It's Sunday today, the 15th of August. But there is just too much in the way of the news that's going on right now that just I kind of felt needed to be talked about this morning. So we're just going to start right off and get right into this. It's on every outlet this morning and last night. It has not let up. It's actually dominating over the COVID-19 issues that we keep hearing. I'm actually surprised by this. But every news network is running with this. And when I say every news network, I've got Fox News, Yahoo, Politico, Rutgers, Newsmax, MSNBC, Washington Post, Daily News. You name it. CNN's actually even running with this. I'm actually surprised about that. But every news network is going over the issue in Afghanistan that is taking place. If you have not heard the latest news is that the president of Afghanistan, there in the capital of Kabul, has fled the country. He's gone. Taliban are starting to pour into the capital and into the city there. There's even reports coming out that the U.S. Embassy now is under attack and that we're trying to get our own people out of there. Mass chaos is all over the country. People are being beheaded left and right. People are being shot down. If you're a translator, you're good as that worked for the U.S., you're good as dead. This, folks, has turned into a... Well, for President Biden, it's the pull, the way he pulled everyone out of there this has turned into a giant catastrophe, a military catastrophe, and one that's being called as an embarrassment to the world by the United States. So I'm going to start reading the headlines here. I just want to give people a feeling of what you're going to be reading or watching as you wake up today. Headline from Fox News. That's it. It's over. Afghan president flees country as Taliban storms Kabul. U.S. Embassy rushes to evacuate. That's Fox News. Politico. Taliban seize power, aimed chaos in Kabul. The U.S. Embassy was being evacuated as the Afghan president fled the country. That is Politico. Newsmax TV. Trump. Biden lost Afghanistan through weakness and incompetence. That's Newsmax TV. MSNBC and their breaking coverage. Taliban on the brink of power in Afghanistan. And I've got more of them here. Here we go. Rutgers. Afghan president departs after Taliban return to Kabul. In their breaking news segment, it says the Taliban commanders say they have taken control of the Afghan president palace. That just broke moments ago. I've got more here. Going into some of your other news outlets. Huffington Post. Taliban enters Kabul. Stunning sweep across the country. President flees. That's the Huffington Post. If you follow CNN, their headline, Taliban in Kabul as President flees. Turmoil in Afghanistan. Wow. I mean, folks, this is everywhere. This is every major news network is coming out. Here's The Guardian. Live. Afghan president reported to have left the country as Taliban orders fighters into the city's capital. That's The Guardian. BBC News. Afghan President Ghani flees country. Taliban sweep the country. Folks, I could go on and on and on and on about this. It has hit every news network, from live TV coverage to radio to newspapers. You're waking up to seeing and hearing this. It's dominating even over COVID, like I said. So, what have we learned from all of this? Well, I can tell everyone right now, I talked about this here a couple of days ago, and I did. I caught hell from it, from the comment that I made. I had made the comment that this was a pointless war, the war in Afghanistan. And I caught a lot of grief over it, especially when I said, you can't completely drop all the blame on Joe Biden. The problem is, folks, it's not that we went to war for the cause that we went to war for. That was not my point, and it was completely taken out of context. The point that I made, and I will reiterate this again because I stand by what I said, what was the end game to the war in Afghanistan? What was the end game? What was going to be the end game in the war in Afghanistan? There wasn't one. You have three options, folks, in war. You either go in and do what you have to do and then leave, or you go in and occupy the country that you're going in against and you take it as your own. So let's go back to September 11th, that terrible day. We had members of the Taliban under Osama bin Laden that had plotted to take out the World Trade Centers and other key targets in the United States. They succeeded. We then made a pledge to go in to Afghanistan and places like Iraq and take out these terrorist groups and these regimes. Folks, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I've never said that I wasn't. What I was against, though, is going in without a plan of action, an exit strategy at the end of all of this. We didn't have one. I've had veterans that have wrote me some pretty bad messages, and regular people that have heard what I said and they disapproved with it. But I'm sorry, folks. You have to have an exit strategy. We didn't have one. And now we see what's happening. This has nothing to do with just Joe Biden and his stupid, well, I'm going to pull all the troops out of there before September 11th. Or on September 11th. Yeah, that was a stupid move. I don't disagree with people getting upset about that. What I disagree with, though, and especially with some of these experts that's on TV going on about this and on about this and on about this, again, what was going to be the end result? When we went in there under under Bush, let's make it clear. It was originally to go in, take out the terrorists, And I thought we were going to be done. I never thought in my wildest mind that we would be trying to take Afghanistan. Today, the headline that I've got today, $88 billion is what was pushed and dumped into the war effort in Afghanistan since the start. $88 billion of taxpayers' money. And for what? We just flushed it down the drain. It's been flushed down the drain, folks. This just didn't happen today or the last week and a half with the withdrawal. It's been going on. And I'm looking at all of these news outlets and all of these political figures and people on the street and your Hollywood figures coming out going, oh my gosh, it's just a crying shame. Why would he do this? I read today, there's people on Twitter today, Hollywood stars, I'm not even going to name their names, it's not even worth it, coming out and saying, yeah, I really should not have voted for Joe Biden. Well, you think? This was the tipping point for you? This was the tipping point for people. The carnage going on in Afghanistan from our pullout because Joe Biden wanted to pull us out. This was the tipping point to show you what kind of a leadership we had, or lack there of a leadership we had. That was the tipping point for people. Was this. Come on. You're rather stupid, and I'm sorry for saying this, or you're really blind and deaf. There has been countless things, even before the presidential election last year, that should have sparked in people's minds that voted for Joe Biden problems from the beginning. And this is what jarred people to go, yeah, I shouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. Are you kidding me? We don't need to name the hundreds of thousands of jobs we've lost under this administration. We don't need to go into the simple fact that now we have the same man who cut all the jobs for the oil and gas industry asking our enemies, oh, we need help. We need you guys to import more oil to us. Are you kidding me? This was the tipping stone for people. The Afghanistan war pullout. How about the countless lockdowns, the countless lives, the countless lies over COVID? The countless people that's lost their jobs. How about the people that are landlords, and you got the Biden administration saying, well, you can't kick people out because they're not paying their rent because of COVID. Are you kidding me? All these things I'm naming off, and the Afghanistan pullout, the blunder of the pullout, that's what's got people going, yeah, I shouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. I am sorry, but it is. But getting to the topic at hand over the Afghanistan war, again, I want an honest answer. And I hope people chime in again today. What was the end result going to be? This administration, the Trump administration, the Bush administration, the Obama, whoever, what would have been the end result under anybody else's watch? It would have been the same. Yeah, it could have been, our pullout could have been a lot smoother and a lot easier of a transition and a more secure one. I don't disagree with that. Because this is a dangerous, foolish blunder that he's got us in. I don't disagree with that. But what was going to be the end result? $88 billion that we have dumped into infrastructure, training police, training the Afghan military. And they folded like cheap Chinese paper, folks, in less than 24 hours. I'll give everyone an insight to something. They tried this same garbage under Bush and Obama when I was in Iraq in 2010. My group that went in for Sea Battery, for the National Guard, we were the last real big group to go in. We shut the doors, so to speak, to Iraq. They did the same thing in Iraq that they've done in Afghanistan. We pumped money into a war effort that got no results. I say this all the time to my viewers. History repeats itself. If you go back in history, folks, and you look at all of the wars by different nations, you'll find one key thing that I've said, and since I've started this podcast this morning. If you look at the Roman Empire, how many times did the Roman Empire, and I know what people's going to say, well, Mr. Nash, that was a long time ago, and people had swords and shields. No, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what type of military equipment or presence you have. Look through history at war times. You're going to get the same look that you have now that you had back then. Look at the Romans. When the Romans went in to expand their empire, what did they do? They went in and took over the area. They didn't go in, occupy it, and leave. They knew it would never stay stable if they did that. So what did they do? They took those areas and they became their own. They put their culture into those places they took over. They fortified them. Yes, now the Roman Empire did fall. It killed itself. It ate itself out like a slow cancer. That's what's happening right here to the United States. With all of this Antifa, the woke culture, the Democrats' endless uncontrollable spending, inflation, the national, we're allowing us to destroy ourselves. COVID is the biggest thing in all of this. It has allowed fear to destroy and topple what we had and what we've had. And it's the truth. But the Romans knew that in order to expand their empire or to take over areas that were nuisance problems, they were going to have to make them their own. Which gets back to Afghanistan. If we were not going to keep that country, and I'm not trying to make it sound like, yeah, let's make Afghanistan another part of the United States. No, that's not what I'm saying. If we were not going to stay there as a permanent deterrent for freedom and build it up and add Western culture into that country, in order to make it more stable. Because, folks, let's get real. That's what we would have had to have done. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Or, I don't know, a military strategist to figure this out. It's common tactical sense. If you're going in to make changes, you're going to have to influence the people there to make a positive change. Therefore, you're going to have to bring in Western culture and securities into a country. Now, were we making progress in Afghanistan? Yes. So my point then would have had to have been, we were never going to leave there, folks. We would have had to make it stable for the Afghan community, the Afghan people, and that country. We'd have always had to have been there. We're not. We're pulling out. Abruptly. What did you think was going to happen? All the surrounding countries around Afghanistan are points of interest for the Taliban. We could not go in and take out those recruitment camps. We never had the clearance or the authority to go in some of these other countries to bomb them or take them out. And what's one thing that I look back on that Osama bin Laden said after the bombing of the towers? He said, you can kill as many of us as you want. We'll wait you out. Well, folks, that's what they did. They waited the American public, the American military machine. They waited them out. It may have took 20 years to do it. They waited us out. And then you have all these news networks this morning, all of them, every one of them that I've named off, and even more, going, we don't understand how it just, within 48 hours, they just swept into the country and just took all of it. I mean, we think that would have taken months. No. They were waiting for this. They've been waiting for this. They know we have a weak leader in the White House, for crying out loud. You know, I listened for 4 years. I listened to the mainstream media, to the Democratic Party, to these radical leftists. What did they do for 4 years? Donald Trump's a stupid moron. Orange face is stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We didn't have these problems under Donald Trump. We didn't have a crisis at the border. We didn't have a cyber attacks going on every day of every week to key components of this country. We didn't have our enemies hounding us every day, mocking us every day. They feared Donald Trump because they did not know how or what to do with the man. He was an enigma. For the mainstream media, I have a question for everyone in the mainstream media. I hope I really do garner enough attention that I get looked at by the mainstream media. I know people's going to say, well, Mr. Nash, you better watch what you ask. No, I really do. I really wish this podcast picks up where the mainstream media has to look at me. And they can attack me on what I say. I don't really care. Because I'm going to say to them, like I'm saying to my audience today, how many times did Donald Trump go on a vacation when all hell was breaking loose? Where is Joe Biden at right now? He's on vacation. So here's my next question that goes along with this whole thing with the Afghanistan pullout and the blunder that's going on. Because I heard this for 4 years with everyone screaming, well, I hope Donald Trump takes responsibility for all the COVID deaths. Well, I guess I'm going to put this out here just to throw it out there like they threw it out at President Trump. Mr. Biden, Mr. President, are you going to take responsibility for the blunder and the carelessness that you've done in this pullout of Afghanistan for all the men, women, children, allies that helped us in the 20 years of this prolonged war? From all those people that's going to be losing their lives from this, are you going to take responsibility? Are we going to hear anything come out of your mouth about, yeah, maybe this was the wrong way to go? I bet you we don't. And I bet everybody in the news media, even though they're covering this, I bet you they are mum. That's the word. You're going to hear blowback from conservatives. That's going to be it. Everybody else is going to stay silent on this issue. But again, if it was Donald Trump, you'd never hear the end of this. So that was what I wanted to start off with, was the whole issue with what we're seeing on the news. Just speaking of that, some other things on the news. This was in Rutgers, and it's been on Fox News. This has to do with our southern border. It says barrage of bullets. It says gunfire from Mexico rains down on border patrol during migrant arrest. Well, again, that's not new news. We all know that's going on. But the fact of the matter is, here the other day, we had top officials from Biden's administration on the southern border saying that the crisis has went from bad to extreme to uncontrollable to we're about to collapse on the southern border. No joke. I'm reading the article on this the other day. I have it up here right now. We're about to collapse at the southern border. So where is everybody in the news media on that? If that isn't the biggest red flag, I don't know what is. But we have the same administration going, well, COVID. You know, when all of these people that's just not vaccinated, that's the problem. That is not the problem. The problem is at the southern border. The problem is we're about to have a high influx come in that's going to basically demolish all security at the southern border. And this administration, again, they're on vacation. They're nowhere to be found. Where is Joe? Where the hell is Kamala Harris? Well, I can tell you where Kamala Harris is at, folks. She's hiding. Have you noticed that, you know, as I like to call her, Miss Laffy, Giggles? She's nowhere to be seen. It's been quiet the last couple weeks with her. Why? Well, did you see the latest polls? The latest polls is that the Democratic Party is looking at her to possibly take over for Joe Biden if he survives his full term of presidency. They're looking for her to take and carry the mantle into the election year for the president or presidency. And as much as she did in the actual 2021 presidential race, the 2020 presidential race, folks, she ended up dropping out. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. And that's the horse that they're planning on backing in 2024? Good luck with that one. That's why you hear nothing about Giggles, folks. Mum is the word on her. You're going to see the spotlight on Vice President Harris go dark. And it's because they don't want to talk about her. They're trying to exit strategy her far away from President Biden as much as they possibly can with her. That's their strategy with her. They're putting her in a corner, so to speak, turning off the light and saying, you stay here until we can bring you out at a later time. And hopefully all the bad things won't follow you. Speaking of more doom and gloom, the Alaskan explosions that's been happening here the last 24 hours, you had 3 volcanoes erupting almost simultaneously, and they're getting stronger. It says 3 volcanoes erupting simultaneously on Alaska's island chain. Geologist Chris Wace Thomas, described one of the eruptions as a fiery explosion. Says this has been going on for the last 2 weeks, and now it's got up to pretty good eruptions. This is over an 800-mile stretch of the islands that rings from the Bering Sea. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because something that happened here the other night, Hades was hit with a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. Hundreds of thousands of people dead and missing. You hardly have seen anything about it on the news. Why would you? COVID in Afghanistan is running rampant in the head news lines right now. So you're not going to hear anything on Hades. It got about a 2-minute brief discussion about on CNN, and that was it. And honestly, on all the news networks, it was there and gone. The reason I bring it up is because you're looking at the Volcanoes explosions in Alaska. You have a 7.0 magnitude earthquake in Hades. We have tropical storms coming in. And you know what I hear? I hear crickets from all the environmentalists. Remember my podcast I did here 2 weeks ago? I titled it "The Lie in Climate Change." Got a lot of people, got a lot of viewership. 100% truth in what I said in that. Where is all the people in the Green New Deal? Where have all these climate activists? I'm surprised I'm not hearing about, well, this is Mother Nature telling us that we're killing the planet. We better change focus. I'm hearing nothing on any of this. You want to know why, folks? It's just like I said in my podcast on the lie in climate change. These are all natural occurrences. The natural rate of the world. There's nothing different. These happen all the time. Has nothing to do with climate change. Pressure, depressurization of Mother Earth. That's it. That's all it is. Your tropical storms and hurricanes, well, guess what? They happen every year. They're no more severe than what I talked about over the last 200 years. But I'm not hearing any environmentalists. It's quiet. It's all quiet. Then we've got the backlash going on in schools. You have a lot of parents speaking out against the a COVID reporting crackdowns that's going on. Governor DeSantis is on well, they're trying to destroy him again, and Governor Abbott of Texas. Now the Biden administration is saying that if DeSantis does not get rid of his mask or non-mask mandates for school teachers and personnel, that he's going to go ahead and pay them through federal money. So basically what this comes down to, if you're not up to date on this, Governor DeSantis of Florida passed a bill that said, look, you will not wear masks in school. There is going to be no mask mandates. You rather go in and do your job and teach these kids for a regular year. We're getting back to a normal year. Or I'm not going to pay your salaries. Or you can quit. We'll get somebody else in there to teach that wants to teach our young children, our youth, and get back to normalcy. Well, then the Biden administration, like I said, came out and said, well, you can't do that. You're killing people. I read a headline here the other day that said, in one of the districts in Florida, 3 teachers died from the COVID Delta variant. And it's just causing mass panic all over Florida and some of these school districts. That Governor DeSantis is to blame. I'm reading it. I'm reading it right here. And then you've got articles about how America's reporting of the COVID and the COVID Delta variant, the numbers don't add up. Did you see how the CDC had to retract the numbers from Florida here the other day? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This was on several outlets. I seen it on Rutgers here the other day. It actually was on Fox News as well. What happened? The CDC had to go in because you had the mainstream media reporting death numbers from the COVID variant in Florida, and the numbers were wrong. The CDC doesn't even have the numbers for it, folks. They came out with their statement the other day that the numbers right now don't add up. They don't have sufficient data. Oh, you don't have sufficient data. But yet you're willing to let these mainstream media outlets go through and say, oh yeah, Governor DeSantis is killing people. He's killing people. Folks, I'm telling you, we are allowing a small minority group of individuals with no common sense to destroy and put fear in this country. We are allowing ourselves in this country to be destroyed by not a majority, a minority group. A small group of individuals that I like to call the far left, the radicals, who have no common sense. These are the people we're allowing to destroy our country from the inside out. Now, I would tell you what I would do if I was Governor DeSantis. If President Biden says that the federal government is going to pay these teachers to sit at home, I would just deny the federal funding. I would block it and send it back. You know, just because the federal government says that they're going to send money in doesn't mean you have to accept it. I mean, states can fight back against the federal government. I know that sounds far-fetched, but that's not far-fetched. That's an actual fact. States make their own laws. It's the same thing with Governor Abbott out there in Texas. Did everyone see the other day? Speaking of Texas, this was on a couple news outlets. Washington Post reported on this as well. Did everyone see the headline about how the court out there in Texas ruled in favor of Governor Abbott with arresting all of those Democratic voters out there in Texas? Each one of those Democratic chairs out there that left and got on a plane and went to Washington, D.C. to escape the voting bill in Texas. Well, now they're saying they can be arrested when they come back. They blocked a judge's order that had put a hold on that order from Governor Abbott. Well, guess what? It got reinstated. So now you have, again, elected Democratic individuals who's holding up the state of Texas out there. Now they're saying they don't even know if they're even going to come back now, because they're going to get arrested. If I'm the people of Texas and those districts where those chairs are held by the Democratic senators that's holding them, I hate to tell you this, I'd be asking for the resignation. Or I'd say, hey, I think we need to do a new, we need to have, I don't know, a recall. If you, or have the power to do the recall. Just like they're doing out there to Governor Newsom in California. If you're going to elect people, folks, and they're not going to do their jobs, get them out. Get them out. They work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. This was called a political stunt that backfired. And it backfired big time. You reap what you sow, folks. You reap what you sow. Going into some other news, I like to occasionally go through and just bring up some other things as well. Donald Trump is also making news. Not in a positive way, like most of you are thinking, oh, he's going to say something. No, it's a negative way. Almost every leftist news networks instead of focusing on the things that we should be focusing on, the problems that need to be solved and addressed here, we're back to looking at Donald Trump. Folks, Donald Trump's not the president anymore. He's not even in office. These people can't let him go. MSNBC says secret IRS files reveal how much the ultra-wealthy gained from the Trump tax cuts. Folks, it wasn't the ultra-wealthy that gained anything. The Trump tax cuts, again, simple economics. We've been through this on what inflation and everything else is. Simple economics does one thing. Again, the Trump tax cuts did go towards large companies, small companies. And I know most people's going to go, well, Mr. Nash, those people don't need to have tax. Yes, they do. In order to create jobs, cause inflation on prices to go down, the tax cuts did go to some wealthy business owners, small business owners. They went to everybody. You, me. It was to put more money in our pockets. It also was to cut the corporate tax rate down. Why? Because the less corporate tax rates you have on a company, it'll cause them not to leave the country. They will pump more into this country. They will pump more into their business. Less taxes on companies that make certain products. They hire more staff. They invest more into their own companies here in the states that they have their companies in. They can produce more. And what does that do for us, the consumer? Well, causes inflation to go down, and that means lower prices for me and you. It's not that difficult, folks. You hammer these big companies. I know what people say. I know what you hear on the news from the far left. From these analysts. These, we're professional analysts. You're professional in nothing. I have a business degree. It hasn't gotten me anywhere. It's a piece of paper that says you got a business degree. Whoop-de-frickin-do. These specialists that keep going on about, well, the Trump tax cuts were for the wealthy. You're an idiot. If you don't know how basic economics work, and you're sitting there spewing how it was a bad thing, you're a moron. Great example, folks. I'm going to give everyone a really good example. Look it up. You go over to Ireland, the country of Ireland. Why do you think a lot of companies flock to that country? Because they have one of the lowest corporate tax cuts. Corporate rates. Why do you think they did that, folks? They get more business coming in overseas. Lower rates that these big companies have to pay equals more jobs, more growth. If you're not having to put out a bunch of money, double or triple like we have right now with this inflation here in the United States, that companies are having to do, you don't have to pass the tax again onto the consumer. This is what I don't get with this with people. You're paying more in taxes because of the inflation rate right now. Don't sit there and say, well, Donald Trump gave money to the rich. He didn't give money to the rich. He cut the corporate tax rate. It's just like Ronald Reagan's economics. You cut the rates down, these companies will come here. They will grow. They will get bigger. They will hire more. They will invest in future technologies. Consumer products go down in price, not up. This is what's going on right now, and you have people going on about how inflation is getting so bad. I shouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. You think? It's common sense. Economics is common sense. Less tax on a corporation. What are they going to do? They have more room for growth and development and lower prices on their products. Higher inflation, like we have now, equals no job growth. The people that's actually making money, their employees, get less. Because again, your money cap is going towards the extra cost that they're going to throw on me and you, the consumer. It just kills me, these articles that's still going around attacking Donald Trump and his tax plan. Here's another great one right here. This one was from The Guardian. It says courts asking at the southern border for Trump immigration policies to be reinstated. So you have federal judges that's asking, because of the crisis going on, the collapse that could happen at the southern border, you have judges now saying, we need to get Donald Trump's immigration policy put back into place. This is getting out of control. Folks, this Biden administration is losing it. They got rid of everything. They repealed everything for the first week that Donald Trump did because they know it works. It wasn't to spit in Donald Trump's face. It was to spit in every American voter's face. Doesn't matter what your party is. They did it because they know it works. And what have I said about the Democratic Party? They never waste a good opportunity to cause problems and major issues, because then they can sell everybody on fear and panic. And then they go in and they say, well, we're going to fix the problem. They don't fix anything. They make the problem worse. Name one thing, anyone, please. I've yet to get any person who hates what I say on the radio or on my show answer this legitly. What has President Biden and his administration done from day one until today that has made positive change for anything? Name one thing. I can't get one person to name one legit thing. Not one. This man will go down as the worst president ever elected. Ever. I just had another headline that just popped up here. This is on The Guardian as well. It says, what does the Taliban's return mean for Al-Qaeda? Are you freaking kidding me? Folks, again, you're never going to get rid of terrorism. We can take a dent out of it. You're never going to get rid of it. $88 billion wasted in this war effort with no end game, no plan of an exit. It just wasn't Joe Biden. For the last 20 years, there's been all the military experts. You should all put your heads low. Hang them low. You had no exit strategy. You had no strategy. As a military vet, it makes me sad to have to report this stuff because of the sheer ignorance in some of our national intelligence and the leadership or the lack thereof. This is being reported on the Washington Post and The Guardian. It says Democrats still divided could derail Joe Biden's infrastructure bills. I talked about this here the other night too. Even though the infrastructure bill passed, with a huge national deficit that's still just piling up daily. Remember the comment that I made about weeping for our future children and their children? I meant that. You have infighting in the Democratic Party. You have Pelosi saying that she may not vote for the infrastructure, the bill is to come with it now to pass it through. Again, folks, just like in the House and in the Senate, the Democratic Party has no future guidance with anything that's relevant. They are so out of touch with regular you and me voters. It's not funny. Speaking of the Democratic Party still, did you see where Joe Biden is, like I said before, asking our adversaries for oil and gas? I brought this up here a little bit ago. It's actually making more headlines now as I'm sitting here talking about it. And there's a lot of people weighing in on this. I'm reading a lot of comments, and they're right. How about we open up the Keystone Pipeline again, Joe? Give all those workers back their jobs. And then these headlines coming out that the Green New Deal activists are mad because Joe Biden's is asking for assistance, or a push, as they call it, in gasoline-guzzling products and vehicles. That's a slap in the Green New Deal activists' face. We're never going to get off fossil fuels. We're nowhere close to getting off fossil fuels. Common sense. Where the hell is it? So how about we open up the job sectors back in with fracking? The Keystone Pipeline, which we should have never have stopped. We were oil independent for the first time. Again, who did that happen under? Ready? Donald Trump. Again, everything that Donald Trump did, the Biden administration knew it worked and was working, and they killed it because they just couldn't have Donald Trump's name associated with it. Now we've got all of these issues going on, and it's just building up and getting worse. Well, folks, that's a lot of news that I have covered today. I mean, a lot of news. And again, this just came across. I before I end my podcast, this just came across USA Today. It says Americans urged to shelter in place. Aimed reports of gunfire at airports. Possible terroristic attacks. I don't even need to say anything. You know, again, everyone's complaining about the Afghanistan issue right now. I think people should be worried about what's happening here in our own turf, at our own home. Because I'm just going to end my podcast, folks, by saying this. And this is not a fear technique. I want everyone to think about this. If everyone is so upset at what's going on with the Afghanistan pullout and the blunder going on over there, everyone should be focusing on what I said earlier about the possible collapse of our southern border. These terroristic groups like Antifa, Black Lives Matter, that's in the United States already. They're talking about, like just with that article there on USA Today, Americans need to start sheltering in place. Folks, the terrorists are already here. They're already here in the United States. If that's not a scary message that I'm telling everyone now, you should be we should be focusing on, I don't know what is. You have people that's over there in Afghanistan getting beheaded. Do we want that here in the United States? You want Sharia law coming into the United States? It's coming, folks. I'm telling you now. This stuff is coming. We have no idea what's coming into that southern border. And you can't tell me that there is no Taliban or Al-Qaeda individuals that have smuggled their way into the United States and aren't planning something big, like another September 11th. And I don't say that. I'm saying this with respect to those families that lost loved ones on September 11th, in planes, in our nation's, the Pentagon, out in Pennsylvania in a field. We all made a commitment to never forget. We forgot. And it's going to get really bad, folks. It really is. If we do not start cracking down here at home with the security flaws that's happening, not just at our southern border, within our own government and this administration that we have right now. People have got to wake up. Again, my message to anyone that listens is please. Elections do have consequences. You've heard this before. Start looking at the policies for the love of God. Not the individual. Not what they did 15 years ago. Look at the policies now. Look at the policies they want to place on us now. Before you vote for someone. Please. This is serious. I will say this at the lowest level if you have children like I do. Start getting involved. I know if you're like me, I work a 12-hour shift now, folks. I still can do this and stay very active in my children's lives and in their school. Please. Please get active in your kids' lives, in the schools. Before I end this podcast, my birthday was yesterday, folks. 37 years old. I went out to eat at a restaurant called Baker's. Great place. It's over in Bucyrus, Ohio. Right on 98. I will say this. It's a great restaurant, but I want to end my podcast with just this one thing. We were in there for about 20 minutes. Me, my wife, 3 kids, having a great birthday dinner. There were some parents that was in there. About 4 guys walked in wearing cowboy boots, shorty shorts that, let's just say, boggled the mind. And they were wearing women's crop tops. These were men. And they came in with their wives and children. And their children were young teenage girls, and they all had grumpy faces like this on. They looked embarrassed at their dads. And I overheard one of the wives of these husbands. This lady goes, why are your husbands dressed like this? And the couple of the fathers spoke up and they said, our daughters want to dress sleazy. The stuff that we're wearing is what they're wearing, but even skimpier. And we wanted to show our children that you don't dress like this. You don't have to sell your body or look like a streetwalker. So the fathers all got together and they said, if our daughters are going to dress that way, we told our daughters we're going to dress that way. And, I was laughing because these guys looked comical. I'm sure they probably had to have a couple of drinks. But I went over and I talked to them and I got some more information on this. And, folks, I applauded them. That's good parenting. When you have fathers that step up and are willing to humiliate themselves to set a good example for their teenage daughters, kudos to those parents. There needs to be more, not just fathers like that, mothers, more parents that need to be able to be more involved in our children's lives. Because I'm telling you now, under what's going on, the de-education level going on in this country with CRT, the way they're taking away reading, writing, arithmetic out of schools, or they're putting the bar so low in the learning process, it's frankly embarrassing and despicable. But I was glad to see that there are parents out there willing to set good examples for their children and their children's futures and educations, showing them that you do not have to dress like that to get attention or be respected. That was just a great message by those parents. And I told them that I would mention this in my podcast, and I delivered. And again, kudos to you gentlemen. You guys, that's good parenting on your part. So I just wanted to take time and bring that up. So that is today for my podcast, folks. Again, I would love to hear from anyone. I don't care if you agree with me, disagree with me, or in the middle. Drop me a line. We're on YouTube now. We're on Facebook, Rumble, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Facebook, and I am on the oh-so-great iHeartRadio as well, and countless other outlets as well. So, again, drop us a line. If you have a topic you want me to bring up, say something. I have no problem. It doesn't have to be political at all. We'll talk about it. So this has been another episode of Political Theater with me, your host, Charles Nash, here on the Dark Knight mic. And I hope everyone has a great start to a new week. Thank you, folks. Have a good day.